Obviously, there's a big migrant crisis, or however people want to package it, whatever name you want to use, which I think is a topic in and of itself. What are your thoughts on the migrant crisis overall? Because it's not like a New York thing.
No, it's nationwide. What I was thinking about was picture this. You grow up in Honduras, Guatemala, and then your first image of America is stepping off a bus in Times Square. That's about as real as it gets. You know what I mean? You see the guy dressed up as Spider-Man and Pinocchio, and you're like, oh, this is, I guess, America. But on a more serious note, I feel like every time there's an election season, this is going to become a thing, right? Every time a Democrat is basically trying to defend home turf, like Joe Biden's trying to get reelected, he has to act like it's a crisis, right? And it becomes less of a crisis every time political power is pretty much solidified.
Sad Money is back again. This is Steven with Sad Money, and today I'm here with a very good friend,
Davidson Boswell. What up?
What's up? Davidson, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. We love your content. We love what you do. So we have questions, and we thought you could help answer them. So we figured we could start with some of the more New York centric, New York focused things that's happening. Firstly, congestion pricing. They just totally stopped doing congestion pricing. It sounds like the MTA is going to fall apart as a result of this. What are your thoughts on just the mismanagement that they've been doing?
Well, I think it's like a psyop, man, because it's Kathy Hochul. When's the last time she drove a car? You know what I mean? She's been riding around in the backseat of a limousine for the last 20 years. Major Hillary Clinton vibes. And if you look at it, the average person that drives into the city makes $40,000 more than a person who takes the train. So this isn't actually, it's like another form of class warfare, basically. They're trying to get people to ride the train, ride their bikes. And then she has the audacity to be like, I went to a diner and talked to regular New Yorkers, and they're the ones that wanted to kill it. Bullshit. Yeah. I feel like it's a classic case of donors coming in and scuttling it, because there's probably special interest groups, who knows, big automotive, whether it be Uber and Lyft or taxi unions or something like that. Not that, dude, that'd be funny if I was fuck taxi drivers, but that's not what I'm trying to say here. But I'm just saying it seems like there's some powerful people just, in Kathy Hochul's pocket. That'd be my guess. Yeah. For sure.
It's crazy that they spent millions of dollars on the infrastructure, and then all of a sudden they're saying it's going away. I mean, I think it would have been good if it went through to some degree. I don't really know how much it would have done to clear up the streets. I feel like New Yorkers, we're very good at finding ways to get around things in general.
Somebody powerful just needs to be doored, you know what I mean, when they're on their bicycle, and then things will actually change, you know what I mean? We need the lieutenant governor to get hit by a fucking car, and then, okay, never mind. Yeah. Power to the people.
Please do not take us down, YouTube. We'll be fine.
Never mind. I'm just kidding. Ha ha.
What did I see? Oh, you know what I thought was funny, or it was interesting? There were people protesting the congestion pricing being overturned.
Yeah.
But they were protesting by walking in the streets, but they put them in the bus lane. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's not even a joke.
Right. You'd think somebody would look down and read and be like, oh shit, bus lane.
Yeah. But it's interesting. So that's one. I feel like that's even lighter conversation though for everything that's been happening in New York. Obviously, there's a big migrant crisis, or however people want to package it, whatever name you want to use, which I think is a topic in and of itself. What are your thoughts on just the migrant crisis overall? What should even be happening in this case? Because it's not a New York thing, too.
No, it's nationwide. What I was thinking about was picture this. You grow up in Honduras, Guatemala, and then your first image of America is stepping off a bus in Times Square. That's about as real as it gets. You know what I mean? You see the guy dressed up as Spider-Man and Pinocchio, and you're like, oh fuck, this is, I guess, America. But on a more serious note, I feel like every time there's an election season, this is going to become a thing, right? Every time a Democrat is basically trying to defend home turf, like Joe Biden's trying to get reelected, he has to act like it's like a crisis, right? And it becomes less of a crisis every time like political power is pretty much solidified. So this is going to be a crisis every 2 to 4 years. I will say, if you walk on 116th, if you walk on 42nd, where these migrants are, they're very chill people, you know? All they're trying to do is like make a living. And of course, every time someone dies by a migrant, what was that girl's name? Laken Riley, you know? Okay. She was killed by migrants, ostensibly. People die every day, you know what I mean? But it's like, but only then is it like, oh, these people are bad, you know what I mean? Like, if... Okay, you seem like a good guy, but if you killed someone, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like, oh, we gotta. What's your nationality? Where are your parents from?
I'm Armenian.
Armenian, yeah. We gotta stop these wild ass Armenians. You know what I mean? It only works like with them. You know what I mean? People coming across the border. Yeah. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's also it was like mismanaged, right?
Totally.
Because we kind of opened things up, and then we kind of said, "Whoops."
Right. Well, that's Eric Adams' thing. First of all, Eric Adams walks up to walk-up music, you know what I mean, and calls himself Eric Adams, you know what I mean, which is a problem within itself. Yeah. But I think it's so politically charged because it's people, they conflate it with like putting the kids in danger because a lot of them are staying in the basements of schools, you know what I mean? And I don't think little kids are arriving to first period and seeing like Hondurans, you know what I mean? Like I think they do a switch, you know what I mean, before the kids get there, right? Yeah. This isn't like, I don't think a bunch of like El Salvadorian people are sitting in the back of trigonometry class with these kids, you know what I mean? Like they're not actually mingling, but of course that's a really powerful image to put in people's minds, to be like, yo, these people with their violence and diseases are coming after your kids. It's all political theater, I think. But I get that I'm pretty far left on this topic. Like I do get that like, I guess there's limited housing for veterans and things like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I just think it's weird because we are, quote unquote, a sanctuary city, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which I think is cool, but like places like Texas, Florida, they're like, fuck you, get out of here, you know what I mean? Right. So it's kind of like bumping up against our image as like an empathic city, you know what I mean?
There's, like you said, I feel like it's just bigger forces at play where it's to send a message. It's hard to understand like what the right thing is to do. I think that's what makes it tough because of like the housing situation.
Right, yeah.
That's like a good segue, yeah, because housing is already awful. It's notoriously awful in New York, right? And it's only getting worse. So do you have any thoughts on like the housing crisis, the housing situation? Like, what the fuck can anyone do?
A big thing that's happening right now is housing is not for people to live in. It's a financial product, right? People are just building luxury apartments because those are the only, like, if profit is the main motive for giving people housing, not living, then of course you're going to buy or you're going to build buildings with high margins, right? You're going to build these big pencil skyscrapers on the lower side of Central Park. Like, for instance, 57th Street, 111 57th Street, there's 60 units in that building, and it's one of the tallest buildings in the Western Hemisphere, you know? So that it's crazy, you know what I mean? So, and I think they are obligated when they make buildings past a certain amount of apartments to make some of that affordable. Yeah. So I feel like there's this calculus at work where people are like, all right, what is the least amount of apartments we can build in a big building, you know?
Yeah.
But I think... I don't know, man. Ever since like it makes me sound like a fucking communist, but I think if you really wanted to solve it, you would have to enact laws where there has to be like over 50% affordable housing. And I don't even know what that looks like. What is affordable to you? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the thing. Where definitionally, what is affordable?
With affordable housing and some of those buildings, I've heard also that they have separate entrances for like people who are in the affordable units. So it's like, this is like the poor's entrance and this is everybody else, which is crazy.
That's so on the nose, it's unbelievable. You know, like when you see brownstones, the stoops, that's where the servants used to enter. Yeah. And now they flood when we get rain in New York. So you can never really escape those like those things. But that's fucking crazy, man. I didn't know that. Yeah. But yeah, just with affordable housing, just to kind of wrap that up, I feel like, did you see that thing that 1 out of every 24 people in New York is now a millionaire?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we've had 30, 40 people walk by us.
At least one.
2 of them were a millionaire.
Honestly,
you know?
the guy on that motorcycle, for sure.
Yeah, that guy was definitely a millionaire. You should buy a muffler.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He
could
had,
probably
like,
afford
the tie.
it.
The tie was tucked in and everything. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. That's how you know you got it. When you tuck the tie in.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's stealth wealth, right? People, like, that was big in secession. Like, people wearing, like, nice stuff, and you can only tell when you look at the thread count, you know?
Right.
It's ever since I feel like the 2008 financial crisis, it's not cool to, like, flaunt it.
To flaunt it, be flashy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Be
like
more subdued.
Right. And so, you know, we're talking about the housing crisis. It's probably pretty obnoxious to people's minds. Everybody's living with 4 roommates now. So you don't really, like, even if you do have a nice house, you want to keep that on the low.
Maybe converting offices, like, it wouldn't be great housing.
Yeah.
Because of those floor plans, but maybe, like, subsidies aren't great, but if the government gives developers subsidies to say, hey, look, here's some money so you can actually make some money off of it. Because they're never going to do it if they don't make money off of it.
No.
It's never going to fucking happen.
No.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's a great answer, but it's the only one I've thought of. I don't know.
Yeah. I know a lot of people live in the financial district now. It's kind of topsy-turvy because those buildings are, like, way less energy efficient, so they're bad for offices. That's the other thing about these office buildings is they raise the floors and lower the ceilings to put all these fiber optic cables in there,
that's
right?
insane.
So
I didn't know that.
you have like 8-foot tall ceilings, you know what I mean? So it's super designed for, like, sit your ass down, work for 8 to 10 hours and get out, you know what I mean? So, like, to change those into, because if you've been to Midtown, there's like a Dos Toros, a fucking Chick-fil-A.
Just chopped salad.
Yeah, chopped salad, and it all closes. You might as well live in fucking Branson, Missouri.
Yeah,
you know
Nebraska,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it takes away the ethos of New York.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm pretty sure we're fucked, and we're going to have to break out the pitchforks if we really want housing. I don't, you know. This segment
like
is brought
it.
to you by Polo, by
Yeah.
the way. I don't know if you guys.
Get a little horse with a mallet.
Right, exactly.
You
Yeah,
can eat
ride
the
up
rich.
on their asses in the horse. Yeah, on a horse. Yeah, man, that's it's all kind of tied together too, right? I don't think people would be as furious about migrants if there was affordable housing. You know what I mean? It's easy to keep your liberal politics when you got a food over your head, and you know, like I bought grapes today. They were $8. You know? Yeah, I know. And I was just thinking, like, I'm just trying to eat healthy, and this is like a sizable chunk of my budget, food budget for the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now imagine you have kids, you're stressed, and then you see, like, and you just have this generalized anger. So you're walking down the street and you're seeing all these people on the street that just arrived.
Right.
And yeah, you don't know where to put the anger because the politicians and the rich people are up in their towers. So you see people on the street and you're like, fuck you, you're ruining my life. Meanwhile, they're like from Burkina Faso and are not fucking with you at all. Yeah.
$8.
Yeah.
I go to the fruit stand guys. You have to eat it like that night or it goes rotten, but it's like $2 grapes.
Okay, all right. I'll take. Yeah, maybe I just exposed that I'm a poor shopper, but I
No,
do
it's
think,
all right.
Yeah.
It's all right. I had to start going this year too.
Yeah.
I was like, it's time to tighten the belt.
Yeah, food stands. Those are probably migrants too. You know, when you think about it. Yeah. The reason you're having $2 grapes is because somebody took a chance, and came over this way. Yeah.
So you're talking about families too, though, because it's, I don't know, like where your thoughts are with like family planning. Like I'm not even thinking about the thought of having a family because of how expensive it is. Like it's so difficult, and like housing crisis, people don't have homes. How can they raise families? Like, what do you think? How do you think this is going to affect America 10, 20, 30 years down the line?
It's obviously going to make politics different because that's the other thing is migrants do have kids. You know what I mean? They're coming over. They have a lot of children. You know what I mean? And they get to a country where there's such a hard gap, like unaffordable healthcare, unaffordable housing, unaffordable food. I was on a Hinge date the other day, and this woman asked me if I wanted to have kids, and I just started smiling for a second, and I was like, oh, fuck, I should watch out. You know what I mean? Like, this probably isn't like a good thing to expose so early.
What was your answer to her?
Yeah, I was like, like, and then I said the sky turned orange last year. You remember that? But yeah, she didn't think that was funny. We're not going out on another date. But yeah, I do think that like those types of things are like, because you know, neurotypical normies want families. You know what I mean? And like, you're in New York and you have artists that are like delaying it, and as men we're like, okay man, we can wait until we're like 45 and stuff like that. But I'm in my lower 30s, approaching my mid 30s, and this is the time where you get asked. And yeah man, like when you read these articles, like the average home price in 2019 was $290,000. Now it is $450,000 in a 4-year span. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And like people don't understand the downstream consequences of that. And then when you stop having kids, you have less investment in like what actually happens to this country. So I feel like it radicalizes politics on both sides. Like leftists want revolution in one way, and people on the right want like Trump to be a god king. It's gonna like radicalize both directions, because if you can't have that like white picket fence mentality that the dream we've been sold, then what's left, you know?
Yeah. It's also, I feel like it's a dangerous thing for governments to have men in their 20s, 30s, 40s without kids.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, what are they doing with their time? Like, what am I doing with my time? I'm doing this shit.
Yeah.
This is probably not the best use of what the government wants me to do.
Right, yeah.
So I feel like they definitely do need to figure that out. Not my problem.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, like, people forget that we're like, you know, a big ass country, and there are like good gun laws and stuff like that in New York that like keep what you're talking about. Like, basically, I think you're like alluding to people being incels.
I'm not a shooter. I'm not an incel, but I feel you.
Yeah. But I think that might be like what you were alluding to. You know what I mean? So it's nice that we're like kind of a little protected from that, but it's not like someone can't like drive from Ohio or something. I didn't mean to take it so dark, but all I'm saying is like, yeah, you're right. Like having kids is like the ultimate sign that you're optimistic. You know, it's like the like radical optimism. It's like, I'm gonna bring this person who's wholly dependent on me in the world, which means that I feel like I can do good, and then I feel like they can do good too, you know? And all these kind of blinking warning signs are happening. And yeah, just to keep going back, and you see, and that's another thing, like you have nowhere to put this anger, so you see migrants, or you see out-of-touch politicians that are making it even harder to be a New Yorker, and you get really angry.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, boomers have over half of the wealth in the country. There's so many statistics around it. They're really holding on to it. What is that going to do when that is passed on?
So one thing I do think about is, you know, people talk about this great wealth transfer. Boomers are not going to die for a long time, man. And like life gets incredibly expensive when you're not making an income anymore, and you're living in like retirement homes, and you're hooked up to dialysis and all this stuff. So I feel like, you know, much to like millennial and Gen Z's chagrin, who are expecting like kind of an inheritance, all that's going to get drained away before they die. You know what I mean? Not all the time, but yeah, that is wild that they're like they're not selling their homes. That's crazy, man, because I'll just say this. My dad paid for his house with a down payment of $5,000, you know what I mean, in the 70s, you know? And that almost is like, that hits you like violence when you hear it, you know what I mean?
Insane.
You see people like, kind of like your show, they'll go into grocery stores and interview boomers being like, how much did you pay for your house? And boomers are wise to this now. They know how much better they had it, so they don't answer. They're like, oh, I see what's going on, and they like walk the other way. Right. So it's funny that, and I'm sure not all of them know it, but enough of them know it to know that like, so I think that's also like the housing issue, that kind of breaks intergenerational trust, right? If you're not willing to downsize and give your home to the next people, it's like, well, do you want me to be successful, or are you just selfish, you know? Like that's kind of where I'm at. This is a very positive interview.
I mean,
it's important to talk about this stuff. A lot of it'll be gone, and then I think and then it'll just increase wealth inequality even more, because the people that are going to get houses are the children of the super rich that have like multiple homes. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's your equity. That's everything, you know? But I'm optimistic that like, it seems like people are waking up to how raw of a deal they got, you know?
I mean, I do like, I like Gen Z because we're both millennials. I'm in my like mid 30s also. I feel like Gen Z does a much better job than us of speaking up and actually protesting, whether people agree with what they're doing or not. it seems like they're doing a good job of
Yeah.
actually doing that.
Totally.
Do you think that's going to actually make a difference in anything?
I do. I have to say so.
Yeah.
I think I wrote an essay about this, but a big reason you get ahead in the world is, or at least millennials have gotten ahead in the world, is their bosses, their boomer bosses, want to basically flap their gums and tell them how the world is, you know? And the way you get ahead at your office or your job is to basically just be like, oh, wow, I've never thought about things like that. You know, just kind of suck up to them, you know?
Yeah.
And something about Gen Z is they don't do that. You know what I mean? They're like, why are you talking to me right now? You know what I mean? They're just like, they were born fucked. We like realized we were fucked when we were like,
wow.
So they like
That's really good.
come into it with a different set of priorities. And so I don't think we had our dreams shattered. They never had one. You know what I mean? So they're building from the ground up, whereas we're kind of like having to recalibrate. And that's why I think you see a lot of like, especially older millennials, like still trying to buy into the whole rat race and stuff like that, like work hard, get ahead, things like that. Whereas a lot of Gen Z are willing to lay it all on the line and like go to a protest and show their face to television cameras. And then, you know, boomers like Bill Ackman is a good example. He's that hedge fund guy. He was basically like, I'm going to publish your name, you know, and like, which is so crazy. But they know that they got to lay it all on the line now. So that just gives me an enormous amount of hope. And I think it's cool that like millennials and Gen Z are not like antagonistic to one another. Well, they call us like what, chuggy, but like that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, we'll take that as long as they're willing to lead the revolution.
Yeah, I feel like the relations have gotten a lot better. I think we finally realized we're on the same side.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird that it's not enough to make $1 billion. You also want to be famous too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's all this class antagonism right now, but they can't just be quietly rich. You know what I mean? They have to like get in front of television cameras, and it's like, why you're kind of like rubbing it in our face. You know, what's behind that? I don't get it.
So that's changed a lot recently. Like the owner of the Sixers, I think he's another example of someone. Ruben, right?
Matt Ishbia for the Suns.
Matt Ishbia. But why do you think there's got to be a reason why so many people who are generationally wealthy are trying to create like a media platform?
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's a reason why they're all doing that right now?
I mean, to get way philosophical, I think like once you make all that money, there's nothing left. You know what I mean? So they want adoration, you know? And I also think billionaires are super competitive naturally with one another. It's kind of interesting. I feel like in 10,000 years, it's going to be fascinating, like when an alien studies our civilization, to see all these billionaires that bought teams that essentially compete against one another. So for supremacy over one another. Like, it's such a wild thing to think about. It's almost like gladiatorial or something, like emperors, like, you know, throwing their soldiers at one another. But I really do think that it's never enough. Like Bill Gates, third richest guy, now he wants to kind of legislate how we live you remember he was like, I don't think we should open copyright for vaccines to India, you know? Meanwhile, like India was having like mass death. And you're like, wow, you're like socially engineering right now. Like even beyond, or Elon Musk wants to buy our speech, you know? Jeff Bezos wants to fly to the moon, you know? I think you run out of, I think it's an indictment of materialism, you know? Like they're just like, well, what if I told you how to live now, you know?
They get bored.
Yeah, they get bored. Yeah, they get bored. Yeah.
I like to think there's billionaires who like watch this and they laugh as they scroll through the content. I really think this entertains them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it does.
Yeah. Shout out. But I think those things are super true. Like I often like when I make the posts on Instagram talking about like wealth inequality and stuff like that, I just wonder what that looks like to someone like them. I'm sure it's just like, oh, the poors are arguing again, you know? Like I don't think they actually place a lot of stock in this. And I think they think the world is going to continue the way it has been forever, you know?
I do think one of the hopes is the children of billionaires are very stupid and they're going to squander the wealth away.
If you want to really, Hunter Biden is the poster child of being like, it's like, yo, this guy bought a fucking gun for no reason, you know what I mean? And got
trust him with your capital.
Yeah, I don't think so. No. Yeah. Hunter Biden investments. Yeah, I don't think so.
Damn.
So that's true, but I don't know where that money goes. You know what I mean? Is it circulated back into the economy, or do they literally just put it up their nose. You know, I don't know. I guess that's going back to the economy in some way.
With the kids? With the
Yeah,
kids?
yeah. Like, what are they? Yeah, they put it back, which I'm all for, you know. Good. Spend your money on stupid shit.
I feel like the only way to really get rich now is to be a scammer.
Yeah, drop shipping,
all of it.
crypto,
Yeah.
all of that. I remember watching this guy say his net worth was like $7 million.
Yeah.
And he had like 14 Bored Apes, and that was like where his. And it's like, fuck.
Was this 3 years
It's
ago?
like looking at a star, you know. It's like already in the past, you know. Like you're like watching it, you're like, oh shit. There's no way this guy's still rich, you know. But that's another thing, man. All the like traditional avenues of wealth have been closed off to people. You know what I mean? There's no way to compete against these monopolies. So yeah, you're right. The scams are the way people go now because they're kind of a little like spurned or hopeless or something like that.
Yeah. Like even these like tech companies, like a messaging company like Slack, like it raised a lot of money. It didn't make any money, but they got sold to Salesforce.
Yes.
So you could have worked at Slack in a good job, made money. It's still a scam.
Right.
In a legal way. Yeah.
Uber's never reported a profit. They lose like $3 billion, and these people are like venerated as tech visionaries. Yeah. I could lose $3 billion. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, it's strange to me that like all these things are held up as like examples of like American ingenuity, and then when you look at it on a balance sheet, it's like seems like the only real businesses that make money are like hard businesses like landscaping or like construction. Like exactly, like learning to be a locksmith, something that's like I'm building something or I'm fixing something. But it does seem like people just move money around a closed system and it all eventually gets sucked to the top.
If this doesn't work, I'm either gonna become a scam artist or an electrician. And maybe both. Yeah, that's my plan right now.
In both. Yeah, you could like tell someone you installed their Ring video doorbell and then just not do it.
Rob them later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come spin the block and then rob them. Yeah.
Do you want to go into business with me?
Yeah, I think so. Great. Yeah. I brought my ski mask. Yeah,
okay,
perfect.
Nice. I think the one area of like ingenuity that is interesting and promising is like artificial intelligence and like AI. What are your thoughts generally on that, especially with all the capital being put into it?
Yeah. I'm waiting to see, man, because the AI art that I see is not that good, you know, but I can tell it's getting exponentially better.
Yeah.
The applications I've seen so far are like warfare, you know what I mean? Like Israel will be like, we need these 100 targets, and you can kind of like defer blame by just saying, no, that was AI that did that. No one like made that decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do worry in that respect. I do believe that there'll be like 4-day work weeks and stuff like that. It's going to be like unjustifiable to like come into an office or work at a computer 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the next great leap. You know, there was like electricity, the internet, and then I think this is the next one.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I will say. If it's regulated quickly enough, you know what I mean?
Are you worried about the fact that it's in the hands of basically tech giants and like a sadistic, weird guy? Sam Altman is the other guy. Yeah, like these people all like they look off.
They do.
Like Sam Altman, he looks very off. Are you worried about that at all because of regulations?
I think it's very telling that he asked Scarlett Johansson to use her voice twice, and then she said no both times, and he was like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway, you know?
Yep.
So that's very indicative of the mentality that these guys have, kind of masters of the universe, as Tom Wolfe would say. Like, these guys that are just like, you can tell me no, you're standing in the way of progress, because they view it as like not their selfish motive, but I'm trying to further humanity, right? And I think a lot of horrible things were done in the name of progress, right? And that's like one of them. So I really am rooting for him to get his pantsuit off by Scarlett Johansson. I feel like that'll be a nice, but I think that's gonna happen more and more. I remember going on Indeed, and there's a job now for $25 an hour where you just talk to a chatbot all day.
Wow.
And you're really like manufacturing your own obsolescence, you know? You're like, because what it's going to do is write customer service emails eventually, which is like traditionally how comedians have white collar work, is like doing that kind of thing, you know? Yeah. But I think like, it's weird that these tech guys who are universally known as like pretty low empathy people, you know what I mean? They struggle to understand human emotion, are like trying to make art and music and poetry and scripts and things like that. And that is what gives me hope that it will like fail in a way that enables people to keep good jobs. Is the people at the helm don't quite get what it means to be human. At least I hope so. Anyway,
that's actually really well said.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. But I like, it's not somebody like, imagine hanging out with any of those people. You know what I mean? And then they're like, I'm going to design your friend. You know, it's like, oh, I hope not. You know?
I'd hang out with them if they'd pay me. Right. Like I have a price for that for sure.
Yeah, $40K, and I'll tell you to look cool. And that, Yeah, I mean, to a lesser extent, that's what a lot of rich people do anyway. They have like posses that they keep on their bankroll and stuff like that. But Sam Altman, he's another example of what we were talking about, these guys that just insist on being out in the public, you know what I mean? Right. Like not working in the shadows at all. They're like, this is what we're going to do. And people are like, so why do you want to be a celebrity at the same time? I guess they just want their cake. You know, they want to have their cake and eat it too. I think one thing that I think is a really interesting thing that happened was in 2021, the government introduced the child care tax credit, right? So they introduced a policy where you got $300 a month if you had children, right? So the government basically showed us that they could help these things, and they took it away, right? So I think that's where like a lot of this anger at the Democratic Party comes from, is like, they're like, no, you can do it. You just don't want to, right? And exactly, because like your priorities are fucked. And we are giving all this money to Ukraine, all this money in the Middle East, but there are domestic policies that worked, right? Child poverty went down, malnutrition went down. You know, like people had more money in their bank account, and the economy was doing better, right? When there was like an infusion of cash. And yes, I know that sounds like, you know, socialist or whatever, but that's a big thing, is like people are scared of these words, socialism, communism, but when policies from those types of governments are introduced, they are like beloved, you know what I mean? Except by the 1%. So I just think that's something that I think about a lot, is that the government, when their backs are to the wall, can help us. So I think that's important that we put their backs to the wall again, you know what I mean?
That's kind of like a form of UBI.
Yeah, very much so.
Hold on. Okay, I got one more question.
Okay. Yeah,
it's a really nice bike.
That's the billionaire we're talking about. Right?
I like him though. He's young. He's not afraid to die. He's riding a motorcycle. That's the kind of wealth we need. New money. So UBI, that's kind of something in some form that could happen. So Trump, one thing he said, Trump has said if he's elected, he wants to repeal taxes, implement tariffs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Any thoughts on like that type of plan?
It's pretty old school, you know what I mean? Like the income tax was introduced in the United States in 1913, right? And that was the Gilded Age, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if he doesn't kind of attack the root causes of inequality. I just think it's going to do the same thing, because it'll make everything more expensive, but will that be more than the amount of money you save? You know what I mean? Because I could see, you know, India, China, these are very powerful governments that are willing to flex their muscles if we do antagonistic shit to them. You know what I mean? They'll be like, okay, how about we not only jack up the prices, but we like slow the rate of goods to your country. You know what I mean? But, and this is to Trump's credit, like I do think that would have a good effect on domestic manufacturing. You know what I mean? People would be like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And there might be a return of jobs. Man, I mean, my knowledge of this kind of stuff, it's so difficult to predict. You know what I mean? What's going to happen? But I think, I think it could. I mean, we need bold things to happen, and like I would not be opposed to like trying that. You know what I mean?
It sounded pretty good.
Yeah. I just don't know like what is going to fund like public education at that point. You know what I mean? If we don't have, I guess there's property taxes and there's sales taxes and things like that. So let's give it a whirl, man. Clearly something's up. You know what I mean?
I mean, we don't really fund education much anyways now, so it's like they don't care about the kids anymore. But I feel you. It feels like that would lift up it would definitely help rich people, but it would help lift people who are poor too, because they do need every incremental dollar that they can get.
Absolutely. And I do think, like, you know, kind of when we realized that Taiwan was making all of the semiconductors, that's when, you know, the infrastructure bill got passed, bipartisan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, crisis creates opportunity. So if you put strain on the system in that way, I think something good that could happen would be a return of domestic manufacturing. And our biggest trading partner is now Mexico. It's not fucking, it's not China. Mexico overtook them 2 years ago. So open the borders. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm done with questions, but anything you want to like leave our viewers with?
Definitely check out Firebrand NYC. It's a socialist organization that I've joined, and we're going to be doing a lot this summer, trying to like activate people. Nice. So check out Firebrand. Yeah.
Check out Firebrand. Also check out Davidson at Davidson Boswell, right?
Exactly. At Davidson Boswell on Instagram and TikTok until it gets banned. Yeah.
It's coming soon. Thank you, Davidson.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.